Welcome, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting another episode of Vina Talks and Life today. It is a very special day because of two small reasons, one bigger than the other. So I'll start with the smaller. It's my birthday. So we're recording on my birthday. But the second reason, which is the most important, is I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting one of the co-founders of GAIN, the group for autism, insurance, investment, and neurodiversity, and that is Barbara Schonhofer. Now, before we get Barbara to introduce yourself and tell us really why GAIN and what really has been the sort of pivotal moments in your career, in your life, that has really brought her into wanting to do a positive change and be the person that inspires others and gets inspired by the people within our community. Before that, I'd like to say, when I first envisioned Vina Talks and Life, I thought it would be a great pilot project for also to get the opportunity to the members of the GAIN team, rather, to showcase the likes, the dislikes, who they are, what drives them. And so every so many episodes of showcasing our great community members, I'd like to take the opportunity to help us all connect with the GAIN insiders, team members, so to speak. So that would be the second one. The very first one, it was with Andrew Messer, one of my our dearest, Barbara, colleagues, Andrew. And this is the second showcasing with Barbara Schonhofer. So Barbara, floor is yours. Can we please have an introduction?
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Barbara Schonhofer. I'm delighted to be on this podcast with Vina, who's doing a tremendous job as a colleague in GAIN. I was really interested in neurodiversity because I have a neurodiverse daughter, and she was born in 1972, and it was really before much was known about neurodiversity, and she was pretty much written off, but she didn't allow herself to be written off, and nor did I. And today she lives independently, she has a partner, and she has a job. And really, that's what led me to GAIN, because for many years she couldn't get a job. And it wasn't for lack of trying, through going through different agencies. And when she got a job, it only lasted for a week or two. And then she was back at square one. And so we'd really given up. And then I met someone called Stuart Pollard, who is part of our founder GAIN team. And this was some 6 years ago. And he and his business partner were helping young people who were falling through the cracks between school or university and work. And when they heard about my daughter, they said, well, let us help, even though she was well out of their range and an adult in her own right. And they helped. And in fact, that all started 6 years ago. And they didn't give up on my Claire. And my Claire's now been in a job for 2 years. And she loves it. And they love her. And so it goes to prove that persistence, and Claire is a vulnerable adult. She has many challenges. But there is a position and a career and something for everyone. And that's why I really came to co-found GAIN.
So beautiful, so strong, emotional, and thank you so much for sharing this vulnerability with us, Barbara. As a mother myself, I completely resonate. I can see the love, I can see also the concern and the worry, and your need to support your child, because they never stop being our children. It's not about the age, it's about the connection we have. And it's so important for parents and anybody who feels like a parent, and anybody who feels so vested in a relationship with either themselves, ideally, as well as others, to really discover, identify, and possibly help connect into a space that has got all this love, the support, and the appreciation that everybody has got a potential. What we are lacking is the effort to want to connect the person with a potential and enable them. Can I just also ask you to connect us into the story of insurance and the financial services? For those of you, I bet there are very, very few who don't know who you are professionally, but for those who happen not to know, Can you please tell us or give us a little bit of a snapshot of your tremendous career?
Oh yes, of course. You know, it's a very long career now. I dread to think how many years it goes back, but I actually started work in 1970. And I started in retail financial services, was very connected with insurance in that time because I worked for an intermediary. We sold insurance products and in fact worked for 20 years in a corporate career, in the end pioneering a centralized lending operation, which was very new in those days, old hat now. And in fact, from there, I then changed careers, changed directions, and became an executive search consultant, a headhunter. And I learned a new trade, and that was halfway through my career. So I worked in industry, I've worked for big organizations, and so that gave me a good solid grounding, which I brought into executive search. So I approached everything in a slightly different way. What was really apparent to me and important for me in executive search was that we should give everyone an equal chance. And I believe in equity. And I learned a lot during my first formative years in executive search about people and about the fact that you need to bring difference together to achieve better business results. We're all neurodiverse. And so really it is about that diversity that leads to better business outcomes. And I knew myself from having my daughter Claire on the journey with me that I could do everything at work. I knew what to do at work. I knew where I was. But at home, it was a completely different story. You know, I was making it up as I went along, and Claire was making it up with me. And if I hadn't had that experience at home, I could not have been the business person I was, because it made me challenge myself and do things differently and think things differently. And I became a better business person because of it. And so I've been on a very long journey. And I'm no longer an executive search consultant. I was on that journey for 30 years. But that helped me understand how neurodivergent people could bring something really significant to business, whether high performing or not. And the wonderful thing about the insurance industry, of course, it's very diverse. From the point of view of there's lots of interesting careers in insurance. It's not just about household and motor. People who talk about insurance, my parents thought that, you know, it was the man who came to the door and you gave your weekly premium to. But of course, it's much bigger and broader than that. And we have so many different career paths that are well suited to a broad range of neurodivergent individuals. So Stuart Pollard and I decided that we would come and speak to the insurance market probably some 5 years ago now. And people didn't even know what the term neurodivergent meant. And so it was an uphill battle. We had lots of meetings. We met some of the founding GAIN team, but we weren't able to get the industry to embrace what we were suggesting, a hub for employing more neurodivergent people purposefully. But of course, then one of the good things probably that came out of the pandemic was that we went into lockdown. You know, we weren't able to go out for the first time ever in our lives. We had to face something completely different. And of course, companies had to as well. And so they got to understand that people operate in different ways, come from different backgrounds. And actually, by paying more attention to what is the most precious resource in the industry, could learn a lot. And so that was the right moment for GAIN.
Gorgeous. And by the way, Stuart Pollard, no pressure, but probably from the words of Barbara, you're the next one up. for the showcasing. Okay, you've been mentioned and quoted a few times already. You won't be able to delay it. So, not that you would, but it's great to hear you speaking about also so positively about the potential of the industry as an industry, the plurality of the opportunities that as an industry insurance offers. And yes, I think we're all down to be a little bit more accountable in terms of promoting the sector for what it really is. Many people still, they speak of insurance and they think of the bricks and mortar and the car insurance and whatnot. When I start speaking about industrial and corporate insurance, which is what I've been doing for the last 25 years, you know, if I was to include obviously consulting and banking into the equation, people kind of lose me, as in, really, is there another sort of side of insurance? Yes, there is. And what you said really resonates with me also as a person who's had a slight or perhaps not so slight of a career change. You spoke about your corporate career and then how you went into executive search, which you no longer do. But can I just ask, how important do you think, and I'll probably ask you to put the hat of the Scandinavian model of changing career, to every so often change our career path? Do you find it interesting, necessary, or accidental?
Well, that's a challenging question, Vina, because mainly my changes have come around through circumstance. So something has happened. You know, we get opportunities in life and we can take those opportunities or we can let them drift by. And I've always been someone that grasps an opportunity. So I tend to think that there are no bad decisions. Decisions are decisions, and then we have to live with the consequences and make them work for us. Okay. I also think that I'm a great believer in putting energy out there, because energy comes back, and it comes back usually in a way you're not expecting it, but it always comes back. And so I ride on that energy. I put energy out, I wait for it to come back, and then I grasp the opportunity. And so, you know, that is really why I've my career has changed like this. However, having said that, it's really been, looking back, which I can do over 50 years, you can see a pattern. And the pattern is, what wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been there at that moment in time? Who are you? What is your value? What do you get with Barbara Schonhofer? What don't you get? It's pretty consistent. So it's following that ethic and who you are and taking the opportunity and having courage to try something different. And I saw such huge courage in my daughter and still see it. And despite her challenges, the things that she takes on, the things she tries, just astound me. So who am I not to take on a challenge or do something courageous with that sort of role model?
Absolutely beautiful. And again, I'll be saying probably that it's so that resonates with me so often during this discussion. I can already see my pattern. Barbara completely resonates. And, you know, I often say I have numerous discussions with my own mother about what it is like to be a parent. And of course, we all agree on something, which is it doesn't come with a manual. You learn as you go ahead. And what you learn on the way is also that not everybody has to be fixed. Well, actually, not everybody has to be fixed. Nobody needs to be fixed. What we have to identify as parents, I believe, is the strengths and the attitudes, and this so basic and often overseen and under identified, I suppose, question of, do you enjoy? Who are you? And give ourselves, as much as we give our own dependents, the opportunity to reflect. What I heard you very clearly saying all along is that you were taking the opportunity to reflect you as a professional, reflect you as a parent, and also take in your environmental influences. And indeed, from Claire, and hello, Claire, if you ever get to hear this today or see us, really, it's also for you and what you represent, and we thank you, in order to become better at what we do. We don't always get it right, either as parents or as professionals. But what's important, as you said, is at least to be consistent in our awareness of we're not perfect, but we certainly strive. Perhaps in the not perfect and we don't always get it right, have you encountered major setbacks, or in other words, for some people, failures? And how important do you think failures are in us as human beings, in our growth as human beings, and within that as professionals?
Well, you've got to embrace failure, because if you sail through life and you don't have failures or don't recognize those failures, then it's a light touch. We all fail. And of course, I've had many failures and many dark moments. And if you're a risk taker, which I am, if you grasp opportunity, you're not always going to get it right. But the point is to learn from it. And one of the things I'm really clear about is that I've learned from my mistakes, and for the most difficult people that I've worked with, I've learned more. And it's enabled me to be the person I am today again. Because unless you go through those challenges, and I always say to people, I'm a late learner. I'm neurodivergent from the point of view, I'm a blue sky thinker, okay? But I find it I'm a very different person to somebody who's analytical, left-hand side to the brain, and I'm very right-hand side to the brain. And I do things differently. And because of that, I'm putting myself out on a limb. I'm putting my head above the parapet, as it were. And I think that you're always going to get a reaction from that. And that's what I mean about being courageous, because you've got to do it anyway. And not everyone can be like me, and it would be awful if everyone was the same. But one of the great things about the insurance industry and the investment industry is we're about protection, protecting people, protecting governments, protecting individuals, protecting companies. And actually, you need a complete range of neurodiversity in order to be able to in any way reflect the customer base. And so this is terribly important stuff. This is not about getting jobs for autistic people. This is about industry coming together to welcome people who are different and bring different things to the table. And you might get someone who's very good, like me, at blue sky thinking, but wouldn't be good at some of the other things. There are people who are very good at marketing, highly creative, see things in patterns. We have a whole range of spectrum of individuals. And if we're just a bit kinder, a bit more understanding, a bit more welcoming, my goodness me, can we all blossom and flourish? Of course.
Yeah. And within that, obviously, we enable the whole sector to blossom and flourish. And I guess what you're saying here makes a great connection into what you said, just the question ahead, which was the opportunities within the sector. Often enough, we within GAIN have seen that it doesn't match with the opportunities within the attitudes and behaviors of the individuals. For many, many years, we've gone ahead by defining very narrow thematics and roles. So you'd be an actuary, a claims adjuster, and an underwriter. We can be so much more. You touched on marketing. Oh God, don't we need good marketeers in our sector to go away from more wooden language into something that speaks into the hearts and the souls of the people? You spoke also about representation for clients and about the duty of care towards our clients. so that they can see really this enabling factor. To be honest to you, it wasn't until I got involved in GAIN that I had individuals coming to me saying, Vina, thank you, because for your work, we feel enabled at our own individual level. And you know, I was hearing that before, as we were enabling companies thrive because of our great renewals and weddings, improvements and whatnot, but you don't get to feel it tangibly until the spoken words from the very individual base. I find it extremely powerful. And I completely agree. It's not about necessarily finding jobs. It's about flourishing and enabling across the hierarchies and the different sort of stages of people's life, and ultimately grow together as a sector and learning from each other. So powerful. Can I ask you to give us last week, or has it already been an extra week there? Anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, but recently, let's put it this way, we had the Old Bailey event, this incredible event of the year for GAIN, where we spoke about our 3-year strategy. We are all professional people. We are all veterans, one way or another. Obviously, I wouldn't compare in terms of my tenure, my 25 years with the 40 and the 50 odd years that you and Laurie and other colleagues actually have, but we have a lot to bring. What does this strategy mean to us as GAIN, and what does it mean to you? How would you like us to grow?
I think it starts with companies realizing that if they welcome difference and make a few minor adjustments, it can actually ultimately affect productivity. Look, if you look back, what's so interesting when we started up going 3 years ago now, and what we didn't anticipate, is that so many people would come forward whose children were being diagnosed with a range of neurodiverse issues. And they were beginning to realize themselves that they were probably on a spectrum because of their children's diagnosis, and were going and getting diagnosed themselves. So we were faced with a whole range of people from the industry, from within insurance and investment, who identified or were diagnosed as neurodivergent themselves. We were staggered. The number of people who'd been masking right from the post room through to the boardroom. What happens if you mask is that you get exhausted, and you're like an actor on a stage, and you can play that part. You can mask to be what you think people want you to be, and I give you 12 hours and you're exhausted. So if you're doing that day in and day out, what does that mean for your day job? Now, as I've got older and I've got very accepting of who I am and who I'm not, you get this with Barbara Schonhofer, you don't get that. And I've sat back into that spot and owned it. My God, I can really let my creativity go full blast. So what I would like, going back to your very good question, Vina, from our strategy, I would like to see the insurance industry and the investment industry coming together to find the solution for welcoming neurodivergent individuals. But in doing so, increase and secure their reputation as a protection and in investment and savings industry. Show other industries actually who we are, the insurance industry coming together to do something that is really important, that will attract the very best talent to that sector. Can you imagine that? So I think it's a moment I'd like to see in the next 3 years of the insurance industry being extremely proud of coming to our call to arms, because that's what GAIN is. We've reached out and you've come to us in your drones to help us, to help you, to welcome neurodivergent people and to show the successes, both in terms of business, emerging risk, how to do things as an industry. Oh my goodness me, if we can showcase that in 3 years' time, we can all stand proud.
And we are already proud because we're seeing the formation of a thriving community, a hub, wouldn't be an exaggeration to call, of people who, whether we would say that in front of them and they would accept, because they're entirely, neurodivergent people also are extremely humble, and we feel the need to know it from the alpha to the omega in order to brace and embrace something. But we are brave, we have audacity, we have ambition, and we have the courage, even the courage to have masked all along and to continue with a sense of duty that, as we say, we try to destigmatize, to lift up the stigma and lift up the, you have to. No, you don't have to. What you have to is be brave and proud of your own achievements, of the achievements that you stand to make, to achieve, and to gain, obviously, pun not intended, or perhaps one can say intended. We don't do things lighthearted. There's always a reason why. And with that, become a role model as an industry, as a sector that's so much more than earning a living or being part of one of the country's most successful sectors. Often enough, we are approached with the, oh, but you guys make so much money, why would you care into the, or about the humans? Well, for exactly this reason, because we want the humans who earn this money or who make this money to not be broken. We want them to thrive individually. Because again, if I may recall your example of masking, you said, what would this masking do to one's productivity? And what I find myself wondering also, what would that do also to one's family relationships or personal and private lives? How exhausted you must be feeling by the time you return to your own home. And why would you need to give yourself all this strain? Is it worth it? I don't think it's worth it. We live once and we better do it without many regrets or any regrets, and also with the best of our potential and input. I am very conscious of the time I've taken out of your extremely busy schedule. Can I just say, on behalf of everyone within GAIN and beyond, really huge thank you for your vision, for everything you continue tirelessly putting into GAIN as a hub, as a community, and of course as an organization with day-to-day needs. Also thanks to the rest of our colleagues, because if it wasn't for us all, we wouldn't be here today. And can I just hasten a forecast as an economist with a specialization in forecasting? May us all be healthy and quite as driven and ambitious as we are, in order to really achieve our 3-year strategy and beyond. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for today.
Thank you, Vina.